African news update on top accolade news. From courtrooms and city streets to field of sports and the digital stage, tonight's headlines show a world in motion, where justice, ambition, and human resilience collide. Tonight we take you from landmark rulings in South Africa to tense military operations in Mali, from economic relief in Egypt to the dreams of athletes and influencers making history. This is not just news, it is the pulse of our lives right now. The headlines. Legal battle intensifies as Ruto's protest panel faces suspension. South Africa's court ends gender-biased naming law. Egypt's inflation falls to lowest level since 2022. Ghana accepts US-deported migrants. We begin in Kenya, where legal and political tensions are mounting over a suspended presidential panel meant to compensate victims of protest brutality. Law Society of Kenya President Faith Odhiambo has said she will abide by a High Court order halting the operations of a panel formed by President William Ruto to compensate victims of protest brutality after a petition challenged its legality. Sworn in on September 4th alongside 13 others, Odhiambo stressed she has not engaged in the panel's work, insisting her loyalty lies with upholding the Constitution and pursuing justice for victims through LSK's pro bono services. The case has sharpened tension over state accountability, underscoring that in Kenya's democracy, even well-intentioned reforms must first pass the test of the law. As legal challenges stall reforms in Kenya, South Africa sets a new precedent for equality under the law. South Africa's Constitutional Court has struck down a discriminatory law barring men from adopting their wives' surnames, ruling in favor of two couples who argued the restriction violated constitutional equality. The decision compels Parliament to amend the Birth and Death Registration Act, marking a symbolic step towards dismantling patriarchal naming traditions. In a nation built on the promise of equality, even names must be freed from the weight of old stereotypes. Across Africa, reforms take many forms, from South Africa's courts to Cairo's central bank. The pace of change is felt in both law and economy. Egyptian Prime Minister declared the worst has passed as annual urban inflation eased to 12% in August, the lowest since March 2022, while the debt to GDP ratio fell to 85% amid a stronger pound and rising exports. The central bank has cut interest rate 3 times this year, helping industry recover from years of tight monetary policy tied to IMF loans. Economists have warned that rural households may not feel the same relief. Egypt's challenge now is clear. Numbers may be improving, but lived realities remain uneven. As economic policies ease pressure at home in Egypt, global policies continue to create challenges abroad, with Ghana managing the fallout of controversial US deportations. President John Dramani Mahama confirmed that Ghana has received 14 deportees from the United States, including Nigerians and a Gambian, before facilitating their safe return to their home countries. The move comes as Washington expands controversial third country deportations, which in recent months have also seen migrants sent to Eswatini, South Sudan and Rwanda under separate agreements. Although the US Supreme Court cleared the way for such transfers, human rights groups argue the practice violates international law and strips migrants of their dignity by relocating them far from their homelands. Critics warn that the system treats vulnerable people not as human beings with rights, but as commodities shuffled across border, parcels in transit in the machinery of global politics. You're watching the African News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. Moving to the harsh realities of exploitation, South Africa delivers a landmark ruling against human trafficking. A Johannesburg court has sentenced 7 Chinese nationals to 20 years in prison each for trafficking 91 undocumented Malawians and forcing them into harsh labor at a cotton factory in Village Dip between 2017 and 2019. Arrested in 2019 after a police raid uncovered the victims confined behind razor wires and armed guards, the group was convicted of human trafficking and violating labor and immigration laws. Prosecutors detailed how the workers endured 11-hour shifts, 7 days a week, without protective gear, food choice, or communication rights, often suffering injuries from unsafe machinery. Rights advocates says the ruling is a landmark victory, but one that modern slavery still thrives in hidden industrial corners, prove that exploitation remains one of humanity's darkest exports. Across the continent, the fight for protection continues. South Africa cracks down on traffickers. Mali battles militants blocking vital trade routes. Mali's armed forces have launched airstrikes and deployed escorts for fuel convoy after Al-Qaeda affiliate JNIM blocked route from Senegal, touching trucks and halting trade. The junta are already tightening control by restricting fuel imports, said it has broken the blockade as militants continue targeting industries where multinational miners operate. Yet despite Mali's pivot to a Russian-backed Sahel alliance, insurgent attacks are rising, a stark reminder that shifting allies does not guarantee shifting outcomes. From the front lines of conflict to the global stage of culture, Senegalese Italian influencer Khaby Lame takes his silent comedy on a high-profile tour of China. Khaby Lame, famed for silent comic skits and around 160 million TikTok followers, arrived in Beijing on Tuesday to start his first China visit with stops planned for cultural heritage experiences. Sharing excitement about Kung Fu, local cuisine and history, Lame's trip comes as China experiences a surge in international attention. His journey highlights how digital stardom can bridge cultures. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Finally, in sport, Hilal SC advances to CECAFA Kagame Cup 2025 semi-finals. Sudan's Hilal SC booked a semi-final spot at the CECAFA Kagame Cup 2025 after defeating South Sudan's Kato FC 3-1 in Group C, topping the group on goal difference ahead of Mogadishu City Club. Hilal will face Rwanda's APRFC in a rematch of last year's semi-final, while seeing the Black Stars take on KMCFC in the other semi-final, with the tournament offering cash prizes up to $30,000. Hilal now aims to turn last year's penalty heartbreak into a historic title run. Across the continent and headlines, one truth stands out: change is personal. It affects families, workers, and communities. It shapes freedom, ambitions, and dreams. From legal victories to daring exploits on the field, from migration to cultural exchange, the world is moving, and so are the people living in it. Stay informed, stay engaged, because the stories of today are the world of tomorrow. I am Ojarumi Okocha, and this is the African News Update, keeping you connected to the pulse of the continent.